And we're rolling again. Welcome back to the Solvable Mysteries Podcast, everyone. My name is Juras, and as every week, I'm joined by my co-host, Glenn Highcove. How are you feeling, man? How are you doing?
Hey, doing okay. Just hanging in here with all the weirdness that's going on in a lot of different ways. But I guess I'm ready to talk about other people's weirdness.
Yeah, let's step away from our own weird situations. I mean, to that end, I also had it was a weird week for me as well. I think it was a little bit an off week for you as well. So, I mean, I'm actually glad to talk about this case because this one I've knew the name of Heather Elvis. I mean, this is the woman that we are going to be talking about today, but I didn't really know the story. And when I looked into the story, I just thought that this story was so bizarre in many ways. And I guess it's going to be fun to talk about it and maybe come to a conclusion. There are some theories in this case. This is a missing persons case. Some theories that we will probably discredit and some that we will probably build a strong case for. So I guess just to start off the show, I think we should get into the details of who Heather Elvis was. I don't know, man, you wanna start it off by just, I don't know, giving us a quick little intro about Heather Elvis, where she grew up and who she was? Because we did have that comment from one of our audience members that sort of wanted us to give us a quick backstory before we jump into the details. I think that makes a lot more sense that, we do that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's worth it on this one because I hadn't even heard of this story until you brought it up last week and we started researching it. So Heather Elvis was a young person, at least she was back in 2013, wherever she is now. So she is from South Carolina. She, I believe, grew up there. She was working at the time of her disappearance as both a waitress at a restaurant called the Tilted Kilt, and she was also a makeup artist. And I guess there's not a ton else much to say about her. So
Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, I do say she's a native of Horry County, it says here. She graduated in 2011 from St. James High School. So when she disappeared, it was only a couple years after
Right.
high school. She's a really, really young person, as you can see in her pictures.
Exactly. I wanted to add a few things to this intro real quick. Heather Elvis was also, this is a weird situation in this case. She was said to be quite a religious person, especially in her youth. But then she sort of made comments that would make me question those, the fact that she was religious. Like maybe she was religious maybe when she, entered her teenage years. She sort of went away from that a little bit because, working at the Tilted Kilt, that's like the Hooters, like Celtic themed Hooters. So, that's definitely odd. Now, what had happened in this case, basically 20-year-old Tilted Kilt hostess Heather Elvis, the woman that you can see in this picture if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, she disappeared during the early morning hours of December 18th in 2013 at Peachtree Landing in Socastee, South Carolina. I probably butchered that name. It's probably not Socastee, it's probably Socastee or something like that, right? Regardless, she had driven there around 3:17 a.m. to allegedly meet her 38-year-old ex-boyfriend, Sidney Moorer. So 38-year-old, that's like 18 years older, let's keep that in mind, whom she had been having an affair with throughout the summer. So it seemed like a summer affair. So I guess let's jump into how Sidney and Heather Elvis actually met. So Heather Elvis was working, as I've mentioned before, at the Tilted Kilt restaurant. Have you ever been to one of these establishments? Because the funny thing about America here, that I thought that there are probably not that many like individual like restaurants, you know what I'm saying? Where it's like everything has to be like a chain restaurant. that almost seems to me a little bit like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is the stereotype of here. There's just America's just dominated by these like handful of chains that, strangely enough, now a lot of those are actually going out of business because of the COVID stuff. But anyway, yeah.
I mean, so she was working there in 2013, at least during that summer. She met a good friend there, Brie, who they eventually moved in together, but we won't get into those details right now. She actually met a man who was coming there to fix stuff because apparently in this Celtic themed Hooters, things were breaking a lot, allegedly, you know what I'm saying? Maybe some drunk guys jumping on tables or something like that, I don't know. But probably things were breaking in that Hooters. I mean, the tilted kilt. So this is the dude, along with his wife, who pretty much came in every day, like not every day, but like on a regular basis, because from that summer, 2013, he actually appears in this tilted kilt restaurant quite a bit. So this man is Sidney Moorer, and he was a business owner. He owned his own business where he specialized in being a handyman. And I guess Heather, for some reason, I didn't really understand this fact, for some reason was super into this guy. So I don't know, man. Your thoughts on why that happened? I mean, like, why couldn't she oh yeah, wait, I think you just sent me the link that you don't really see the image. My bad, man. How did we not flesh that out? Right, I think you should see it right now, right?
Yeah, there we go.
Right. So
yeah, so as I was reading, so it sounds like he had a business that was specializing, or it specializes in repairing specifically kitchen equipment, it sounds like, which I guess, so I don't know, fryers and ovens and things like that, I'm guessing. Maybe part of me is a little jealous, having been through some sporadic employment lately. I'm like, gosh, that'd be nice to have a business where you just know there's always going to be business as long as there's restaurants around, which I wonder how he's doing now.
Probably
with all the COVID stuff going on in the United States. Maybe that's slowed down. Maybe he's feeling like me right now.
I think he's in jail, bro.
Well, are they? Well, I guess we'll get to that whole part in the end with the trials and mistrials and everything. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to not say anything. I mean, I'm older than they are, or I guess they're older than me now, but they're younger than I am now. So I'm trying not to be uncharitable about how they look as a couple, but they look very much they look very Southern or Midwestern, I guess, is the nice way to put it. Yeah, I mean, they're living in sort of let's call it a rural area, maybe. Sounds like they had kind of a weird relationship. I mean, I guess from his point of view, maybe it's not so abnormal for somebody to fall for a younger person, let's say male or female. For her point of view, yeah, it's a little weird. I mean, I don't know, like a lot of 20-year-olds that are super into like unless it's for money, like because the guy has assets or is more responsible. I mean, maybe that's sometimes the lure. Sometimes that's why somebody younger might be interested in someone older, is that the older person has more life experience or more maturity. So yeah, I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of is, like you pointed out, it's kind of like a Celtic or Celtic themed Hooters. Maybe it makes you maybe you get really tired of young dummies coming in all the time. Like they're coming in. That's a good
point. That's actually a good point. Yeah, I didn't really think about it. So regardless of that fact, they actually get into a relationship where at some point Sidney Moorer actually comes by almost every day and brings coffee and bagels to Heather. So I think that's pretty strange, you know what I'm saying? Especially if I was that business owner of that tilted kilt, having the repair guy constantly coming in. with like bagels. I don't know, man. That's just probably an odd situation, to say the least. But to keep the long story short, I mean, the wife. You know what I'm saying? The wife, Tammy Moorer. So, Sidney's wife. She actually, after some time passes, she actually finds out that Sidney has been having an affair with this 20-year-old hostess at the Tilted Kilt, and she's not happy with that at all. As we will come to find out, she just goes like full psycho mode on essentially Sidney. At some point, she arranges a phone call to be had between like Sidney herself and Heather, where she makes Sidney tell Heather that you are nothing but a fling to me. He says some pretty disturbing stuff there, like some pretty insulting stuff. I don't want to really quote them
we
right
can't.
here. Yeah,
It's so awful. Yeah, it's like even with us calling out how bad it is, it's pretty mean. I mean, when he said that, I mean, was it your impression, the thing he said, where you're kind of nothing but let's
yeah.
say a toy to me, or that was just for the experience? I mean, do you think he was sincere in that, or do you think he was saying that because the wife was the audience?
I think it's because
And
the
that was,
wife. I feel like it was because the wife was present. Because I had seen some pictures where the wife is actually like 3 inches taller than Sidney, or like 4 inches taller than Sidney. It really seemed like she could like potentially beat him up. So I was like, it's probably because she's there. You know what I'm saying? That's what I felt.
and then her reaction. I mean, that's interesting. That's interesting way to look at it, because like maybe he's even physically intimidated, but she seems like maybe I mean, who knows? Obviously, when someone gets in a relationship and then they have that kind of loss of trust, maybe anybody would act a little nutty. But she seems really controlling, where all of a sudden, like, she's controlling his. If there was anything like that going on before he cheated, I don't know that this makes it better, if that makes sense. So, like, whatever kind of pressures are going on in a relationship or a marriage that makes one spouse cheat, or, you know, make
Right,
somebody do
right.
something outside of that relationship. I mean, to
But
me, it
but
was
here's the
like,
thing.
well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish. What I was gonna say is like, to me, it's pretty crazy because from some sources that I've read, I can't really verify the credibility of those sources, but they state that Tammy actually had a lover as well, and only
Yeah,
yeah,
it was her own Facebook posting, apparently. So she had some whole Facebook posting where after the fact, after all this was said and done, she had these. It's like an ongoing theme in this thing is like all these dummies keep implicating themselves and making themselves look worse in social media in,
exactly,
in, in an effort
exactly.
to like exonerate themselves. Yeah, even the victim.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's the only but that the weird thing here is that Tammy allegedly only had a problem with Sidney having an affair with someone if Sidney does not disclose this affair information to Tammy. You know what I mean? The only problem allegedly she had with Heather is the fact that Sidney was hiding this from Tammy. So, but that's a little bit, I'm not really certain how credible that is, because I feel like she had a reaction of, she's like, I believe she was like in her 40s at that time, and she sees her husband going out with like a 20-year-old, like, just some 20-year-old hostess from like the Celtic Hooters. I mean, I think there's some jealousy there, don't you think? I mean, that's not only the fact that you didn't tell me about it. I feel like there's more stuff there, you know what I'm saying? And also, the other thing, I really feel sorry for Tammy's lover, because Tammy seems like she's, you know what I'm saying? Like she's gonna kill you if you cross her.
Yeah, it's weird. So it's almost like she implied they had some kind of open relationship, And I guess, I mean, I've never been in an open relationship, but as I understand it, sometimes that's like the contingency. That's the clause, is that there's no secrets. I mean, which kind of makes sense just from because an open relationship, you're already kind of exposing each other to STDs and things like that. I mean, it's risky.
Exactly.
I mean, for real, I mean, just a sad fact is like you're essentially making it much more likely that somebody's going to get something
Yeah.
from somebody. But I guess the thing is, maybe that's, in her mind, that's what makes it not just a fling or like, fun time outside the relationship, is if he keeps it secret, then it is somebody who's an actual threat to the relationship. And then if these are like fissures that are going on in their relationship and they have kids together, I guess,
Right.
maybe that's
Yeah.
it's kind of give and take. So some of it's like yeah, when you have kids involved and you're in a long-term relationship, and maybe there's a reason why they're together, that they do see each other as like the ideal mates. But then, yeah, it just becomes so much more like I guess what could be broken is so much more expensive than, like what could be broken in Heather's life, obviously, other than her life itself. Like, she has a lot less at stake than they do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
because of the kids, they had like 3 kids. They probably had like a house, a car, you know what I'm saying? Things like that.
Yeah, assets. Yeah. And I don't know. Is it maybe interesting compare and contrast? I don't know what divorce laws are like in Lithuania, if they have no fault divorce. So in the United States, that was like a big kind of revolution in divorce laws. Is prior to a certain year, I don't know what year it was, a lot of states, maybe there are still some states with fault divorce, but the deal is like, it used to be much harder to get a divorce, and then if you got a divorce, it would kind of almost depend on like whose fault the marriage dissolving was.
Yeah.
So like that was what you used to have in the old days, like people hiring private detectives to try to prove like, oh, I wasn't the one that blew up this marriage, my wife or my husband, he or she was the one who, caused this to happen. So as a result, the spouse whose fault it wasn't would get like, support payments or keep most of the assets or get custody of the kids. That's not the case anymore. Now it's no fault divorce. So like for any marriage at any moment, like, yeah, it could just completely blow up the marriage, and it's under no fault divorce. Like you just split the assets 50-50. So imagine,
Oh my God.
but like what if she, I mean, he has a business obviously, but what if that business is separate from her? I mean, if she has no ownership in that or the relationship, I mean,
Right.
it may be like all of a sudden she's seeing our house, and her, like you said, all of her assets get sawed in half and going to like Heather maybe eventually. I don't know.
Right.
Worst
Right.
case scenario. Yeah.
Right. Especially if it goes to Heather. I mean, but then again, you also like inherit all of the, I guess, liabilities of that business as well. So, I mean, but that business was probably a good business. I mean, it seemed like it was a one-man operation. Now, let's get into the details now. Over the summer of 2013, Heather Elvis and Sidney Moorer actually start, over the summer, they only start chatting, I believe. And from the timeline that I'm looking at right now, over September and October, the affair actually kicks off. And actually, I believe Tammy starts sending Heather threatening texts. And she like sends some crazy stuff in those texts. Like she sends her like some really stupid texts that don't even make sense. Like like you couldn't really even like make out what she was trying to say in those texts, because it almost seemed like she was talking that she's gonna kill Sidney. But I don't know, man, like you being the grammar expert on this podcast, you wouldn't like those texts. I don't really have them. I don't think they're like that important to the case. Now, obviously they're important, but I guess the more important facts are that she actually starts sending Heather pictures of, her and Sidney having sex, which is probably like, what I'm saying, like, let's be real here, nobody wants to see that, you know what I'm saying? So that's also pretty weird.
It was so weird. I mean, like, out of all the things, there's a lot of like own goals with like the social media on this thing. Like that was the way. Can you imagine how unhinged somebody is that their revenge their revenge is to send pictures of themselves having sexual relations with their own husband to
Bro,
to their enemy. Oh my
this
god,
is probably like South
what's going
Carolina.
on?
It's South Carolina, man.
What's going on? Come on, South Carolina. You guys got to tell us in the comments. Is this? I'm sure in the distinguished and religious South, this cannot be normal behavior.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this seems like definitely not normal behavior. Okay, so at some point we also have to talk about the Twitter account that is still active. That's a weird thing about it. Like her Twitter account is still active, and actually the last posts also like correlate with her disappearance. Now I definitely want to get into the Twitter posts. She's like, yeah, I'm reading through these Twitter posts, and they don't really make too much sense. But she does refer. I mean, I'm talking about Heather's Twitter posts. Heather does refer during the summer 2013 that she really likes this new handyman that shows up at her work, essentially. So that's pretty much what happens now. After November 1st and 3rd, when Tammy starts sending those pictures, and they had that like unanimous phone call where Heather had to listen to pretty much Sidney tell her that she was nothing to him. We don't really know if he really meant it, and that's up for debate. But whatever. After that time passes, actually Heather is actually really, I would say, heartbroken. You know what I'm saying? For some reason, I mean, the dude is 38 and he's married. So I don't know what's that all about. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you so upset? It's not like it's not. Let's be real here. It's not like Sidney was a keeper, especially after what we learned about this dude that he potentially did. You know what I'm saying? Like, why do you think Heather was so upset about losing this dude?
I kind of wonder. Yeah, I kind of wonder, and this is almost as like last week's episode about Alonzo Brooks, where I just wonder, and especially a lot of these places in the South, in the Midwest, as like the urban areas on the coast, and are sort of draining other parts of the country. I wonder if it gets really hard to meet people, like if there's just not enough people to choose from, like these small towns or small urban areas. Like maybe that's just part of the problem, is like you don't know anybody who you didn't already know from your high school. And it's so weird to me being in a massive city where like I could only meet strangers for the rest of my life if I wanted, and every day it would be new faces. But it's so strange that that's not the case for everybody.
That's a good point. I actually didn't think about it. Maybe it was because the town was that small. I mean, she did state in her Twitter posts that she was upset regarding the size of her town, and that she sort of didn't have anything to do in there. So I think she was definitely looking for like adventures, and I guess Sidney represented that to her essentially. But let's jump into the timeline next. So after the beginning of November, you know what I'm saying, when they had like that whole altercation with crazy Tammy, she essentially actually is really upset up until mid-December. So for, I would say, a month and a half, she's really upset. But now on mid-December, she's like, she already got a new job at like a beauty parlor, and she also arranges a date to go with Steven. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his last name. I think you know what I'm talking about. Let's find this guy. Steven. Do you know who I'm referring to, man? I'm trying to.
No, I think the other thing I read, he was sort of anonymized out.
Steven Shiraldi. That's why I didn't want to pronounce his last name. Shirladi. I
Let me
mean,
find it.
I
Let's see what
mean,
it was.
I'm
Yeah.
just gonna give it. I'm just gonna send it to you.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, Shiraldi.
Oh,
There we go.
come on, man. I'm a dummy right now. Shiraldi, of course. So Stephen Shiraldi. So she goes on a date with this guy, Stephen Shiraldi. She actually posts pictures from that date, essentially of her learning to drive stick because apparently her father, I believe her father's name was Terry Elvis. Terry Elvis actually tried to teach her to learn how to drive stick. You know what I'm saying? But he said that, those attempts ended like horrifically. So he probably passed on that. But then this Stephen Shiraldi guy, he actually was like, "Yo, I'm gonna teach you how to drive stick." They drove around looking at like Christmas lights because this was December 17th. Let's remember this fact. It's almost Christmas time. So they're driving around. Stephen Shiraldi's teaching her how to drive stick. She sends this picture to Bree, that other person that she became friends with, who was at this point visiting family and was out of town, as well as her father. She said something along those lines in this posts. Look at me, I'm driving stick. I'm almost like a pro or something like that. So this, I believe, is the last confirmed picture. Well, of course, if there is no other pictures that we don't know of from Redbeard's bar that we're gonna talk a little bit later, but this picture is the last picture of Heather Elvis, I believe. And as you can see from this picture, Heather looks a little bit fuller. And at this point, there has been, speculations around her personal circle that she was pregnant. You know what I'm saying? So, do you see any indications that she's pregnant from this post?
I mean, it's so funny you said that because I was holding back because I didn't want to be mean, and like I've gone through some weight changes lately where, fortunately, I've lost like 30 pounds in the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. But yeah, I mean, she looks way different in this picture. I was like, is it me? Did she look just a lot different in the first couple? I mean, this is also the age that a lot of people do go through a lot of major weight gains coming out of high school. So, I mean, like myself included, but yeah, maybe that would explain. I was trying to think
yeah,
how did her face get so much chubbier?
Exactly. I think she is pregnant, and I think it's like, I feel like a lot of our audience will agree with us right now that she is pregnant, you know what I'm saying, on December 17th. And I mean, who do you think is the potential father? I mean, it has to be Sidney, right? I mean, who else? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really see a lot of evidence about, I mean, obviously, technically it could be anybody, but yeah, in terms of like what seems plausible.
Right, exactly. So the date ends, I believe, at 1 a.m., a little bit over 1 a.m. So this Stephen Shiraldi guy drops off Heather Elvis at her house at, I believe, 1:15 a.m., something along those lines, or 1:10 a.m. So I really don't know the exact time details, but I don't think they're like 100% correct either. I mean, how could you be sure? And it doesn't even matter to this case as much as the other fact that Sidney Moorer, if almost exactly at the same time on December, I believe 17th, you could probably say 18th because it's 1 a.m. It's technically the other day. You know what I'm saying? So on December 18th, early morning hours, pretty much the night of December 17th, 1 a.m. also goes to the Walmart, local Walmart, and he buys a pregnancy test. It also buys like some cigars as well. So goes into this Walmart store and buys like a pregnancy test. Now, I will let you add something there. But yeah, one more thing, man. Yeah. One more thing. The other thing is, I believe sometime prior to this date of December 17th, when Heather Elvis actually goes out on this date with Stephen Shiraldi, she had a pregnancy test that she did, and it came out as error. So what I've looked into, you know what I'm saying, because I don't know how pregnancy test works. I've looked into what that actually means. So that means that the person who did the test messed it up, essentially. You know what I'm saying? They either like did, I don't know, do you like pee on it? Do you like pee on it like in a wrong fashion? So she probably like peed on it like either not the correct way to pee on a pregnancy test, or she didn't wait as long to like do some hocus pocus pregnancy test where they like show you if you're pregnant. So you know what I'm saying, she probably messed it up like sometime before. So maybe that test was already bought by Sidney, but now he's buying pregnancy tests at the same day when Stephen Shiraldi goes on this date. I mean, is this a crazy coincidence or what?
Yeah, it seems pretty damning indeed that, especially because I don't know that he and his wife were even at the age where they could have kids anymore. So like, why else would you be buying that? I was just laughing because I was like, what kind of cigars are you buying at Walmart? I mean, unless you're buying them to make like a blunt with or something like that. I say this because I'm a little bit of a cigar snobs, but like,
right.
Just for the audience, don't ever buy like a cigar from like a grocery store or like 7-Eleven, like a convenience store, and think that that's like a real cigar. It's not. Like it's going to taste like crap. It's going to be horrible because if a cigar is not kept in a humidor, it just gets all dried out, and then you're kind of like, the whole point of a cigar is it's really, really good tobacco.
Oh, yeah.
It's sort of like cigars. Like I don't know if you guys get good cigars in Lithuania, but when I was in college, I got way into cigars, and like a good cigar, it's almost like a rocket ship. Like it's got all these stages to it where like they use different kinds of tobacco for different parts of it, and it's like amazing. But yeah, when you say that part about him, I don't know. It's were they smoking weed or something? Maybe that was
maybe
part of it. Which
probably.
Which like, yeah, which is not even like a good way to smoke weed, by the way. But yeah, it's pretty strange coincidence and timing on things, and you like, add in her weight gain, and then some of the logistics of what we're going to talk about next and the timing, it starts to circumstantially look pretty bad.
Yeah, exactly. So this footage that we are looking at, especially for everyone who is on our YouTube channel right now, Solvable Mysteries Podcast on YouTube, this is pretty much the footage taken from 1:35 a.m. to 1:40 a.m. So approximately 30 minutes after Sidney actually goes to this Walmart to purchase cigarettes and whatnot. So now I would probably keep everyone in suspense, and I would just tell that he is being shown going to the payphone to call someone, and the call duration was approximately 4 minutes and 53 seconds. But since I think we have to move through the case in a different manner this time. I think we have to disclose more facts. So he was actually calling Heather. So he was calling Heather at this payphone at 1:40 a.m. and Heather at 1:45 a.m. calls her best friend Bree, who was out of town, as I've mentioned earlier, and she says to Bree that Sidney just called me, and pretty much Sidney says, now there's a little bit of a discrepancy in terms of sources. Like some sources state that Sidney actually told Heather that he already had left his wife, and he was like, you want to like start the relationship with me and whatnot. And some sources state that he only said that he was willing to leave his wife. So I'm not sure how big of a part that little detail plays in the overall big picture. So the call between Heather and her best friend Bree lasts around 2 minutes and 20 seconds, and at the end of the phone call, Heather actually asks Bree what should she do about the situation, and Bree actually says, by the way, Sidney actually asks Heather to meet up with her that night at 2 a.m. You know what I'm saying? So that's like a big red flag, given the fact that he has that crazy wife, Tammy. Like, I'd probably tell her, don't go there. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't go there. If I was her friend, I'd probably say, you probably need to avoid this meetup with Sidney at 2 a.m. right now. It like in the middle of like a forest. So she said that. Bree said that also to Heather, but Heather still ends up leaving the house at 2:30 a.m. So first things first, she just went on this date with Steven Shiraldi, who like showed her the Christmas lights, taught her how to drive stick, at least like to some degree. Also, Steven was like around the same age as, you know what I'm saying, like Heather. Why at like, and you haven't spoken to this dude in like a month and a half. Why are you all of a sudden so hell-bent on meeting the guy? I mean, he has 3 kids, he has a wife, and you just went on this date with this, you know what I'm saying, like what seems to be like a cooler guy. Why are you like going out of your way to meet this dude at like in the middle of the night all of a sudden? You know what I'm saying? Like, you just came from a cool date with this other dude. What are you doing at this point, Heather?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like it may be whatever it was that just she didn't feel the same way about the other guy. You know, she tried, and maybe, you know, she gave it a chance, but just wasn't the same. Maybe it's also because it's not as forbidden. So maybe that's something going on with her psychology, is she likes it because it's like wrong, you know, quote unquote wrong, or because he's like more of a rare commodity. I mean, maybe, who knows, maybe he was just a more interesting dude than this guy. Like it's almost like she was treating him like a brother or something, or I don't know, like he was kind of getting friend zoned. But yeah, I mean, I guess to your point though about like, why would you go meet that person in like the woods in the dark at 3 a.m? I mean, that is kind of weird and mysterious. But she even made a joke, because you mentioned like her she had kind of an interesting sense of humor, like a little bit of like an edgy sense of humor. And she even made like a joke about like like people killing their girlfriends or something like that. I have to find it again.
I think she retweeted Daniel Tosh tweet where Daniel Tosh said, I think, hello, like, hey married fellas, you can either cheat on your wife or kill them. You can't do both. That's when you get caught. So that was the tweet. So, you know, I feel like Tammy probably saw that tweet, and Tammy was like, yo, that can't be happening around my watch. She got real mad. So let's keep the night of December 18th alive here, man, because at 2:30 a.m. Heather tries to call back the payphone, but here's no answer. So, like, remember, Sidney called her at 1:40 a.m. and at 2:30 a.m. she tries to call back that payphone. So was she expecting for some reason the Sidney still wait around that payphone like 50 minutes later? I don't know, man. I don't get this part. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty odd.
Yeah. Like, do you think she knew it was a payphone? I mean, maybe she just thought that was like another cell phone. You know what I mean? Like, who even uses it?
Bro, you're smart. You're smart. That's correct.
So I'm like, who even? I mean, in America, you can't even really barely find payphones anymore.
Same.
But this was obviously, yeah. I mean, it's maybe just like now nobody assumes like there's any payphones. They just assume it's like, oh, this is your burner phone or something.
You're smart, man. I didn't even think about it. Maybe she was. How would she know that was a payphone?
Right.
Exactly. So at 2:42 a.m. From 2:42 a.m. to 2:56 a.m., Heather's phone is being located at Longbeard's Bar and Restaurant in Carolina Forest. I think we could jump to like the Google Earth here for that situation. Now, the thing is, how they tracked her phone was with the pings, right? Like, phones have like pings that you could track, and I feel like most of these cases that we research right now, like I'm really learning a lot about like phone pings, and pretty much if I'm ever committing crimes, which I'm probably gonna do that at some point because I'm from Eastern Europe. You could just look like EU prison stats. I mean, it's probably inevitable eventually. So I'm like throwing out the phone immediately because it seems that you could
leave your phone at home.
Exactly. So she was being pinged at this area right here, somewhere around Carolina Forest, Longbeard's Bar and Restaurant, and I believe at sometime later, so this is around 3 a.m. in the morning, let's keep the timeline still alive, she decides to drive towards Augusta Plantation Drive, but then after a while she goes back to the same area where she was, and then pretty much at 3:16 a.m. Heather's cell phone attempts to call Sidney's cell phone for the first time immediately as she's leaving Longbeard's. So she was probably heading back home. I believe she was heading back home to her apartment. And pretty much, I'm looking at the timeline. The timeline is definitely a little bit choppy. She does not receive any answers on her 3:16 a.m. phone call. Now at 3:19 a.m. her phone is being traced to her apartment. So essentially what we gathered from this piece of information is, for some reason, sometime during like 3 a.m. in the morning, she left her apartment to go to this Longbeard and Bar restaurant. She stayed there for a little while. Maybe she didn't go inside that bar, but like maybe just stayed there in the parking lot. Then she drives to Augusta Plantation Drive, then goes back to the Carolina Forest / Longbeard's Bar and Restaurant, and then she goes back home. So why do you think she left her apartment for, I don't know, what seems to be like around 30 minutes? Like, because she left the apartment before she arranged to meet, Sidney. So what was that initial first leaving of the apartment like? What could that mean? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, do you think buying another pregnancy test, or part of this whole frenzy of activity seems to be around some kind of development, you know what I mean? And it makes you wonder,
right?
Yeah, what was really being planned here? Like, why all of a sudden this big frenzy of communications between them, and like maybe Sidney trying to lure her out to someplace remote? Like, what's the pressure? Where's the pressure coming from?
Exactly. So at 3:17 a.m. when she's back at her apartment, she calls Sidney again, and then Sidney actually picks up the phone. We don't really know who picks up the phone, but Sidney's phone is being answered. Who knows? Maybe it was Tammy who answered that phone, and that phone call lasts for 4 minutes and 15 seconds. And pretty much at that point, the phone, we don't really know what was talked about during that, 4-minute phone call. But then at 3:25 a.m., we see movement from pretty much Heather's phone, and she is driving towards the location of Peachtree Boat Landing. So let's jump to this Peachtree Boat Landing area. We could pretty much see that it's a pretty secluded area, you know what I'm saying? It's like seems like it's pretty secluded, and I don't know, man, seems like a really nice place for a setup to happen, right?
Yeah, it's like, why that place? Like, I mean, is there anything redeeming about it? Is Peachtree Landing, I'm assuming it's some sort of boat thing. If you zoom in on the parking lot there, usually for areas like that, there'll be like a boat ramp. Is that what they have there?
Yeah,
that looks like a boat ramp. Yeah, okay, so that's what it is. So it's a place to go get going. What's that river connect to? Is it just a big series of rivers and stuff for people just fishing and
seems like
doing their thing? Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Seems like that's
Oh,
the case.
wait. Oh, it's on the coast. No wonder. Okay. So it looks like maybe you can access the coast or some lagoons or something there.
Yeah, seems like you
Yeah.
could actually. Yeah, there's a coast connection, but the water seems pretty shallow there, or something like that.
I mean, I'm just thinking about it from like, I mean, if you were like a teenager and you didn't have like a house to go to, or you didn't want to be around other people. I mean, I'm assuming there's a huge parking lot where you could sit there and drink and do other things in the car. You know?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's probably the case. Now at now I'm gonna look at some other footage right now. Now this other footage is pretty crazy as well. It pretty much shows that, almost at the same time, the truck that the black truck that belonged to Sidney Moorer and Tammy Moorer, pretty much the Moorers, actually drives past some residential homes and drives towards the same area where Heather is now at. You know what I'm saying? Like Peachtree Landing. And the crazy thing is that Heather stops at Peachtree Landing for some time, and she essentially tries to call. Yeah, you saw that truck. That truck was pretty much what many experts from the FBI and so on and so forth believe belongs to the Moorers. Heather actually tries to call Sidney at this location. So, correct, why are you meeting at 4 a.m.? Like, what is the reason to meet at 4 a.m. in Peachtree Landing? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no point in meeting there. Why would you meet there? That's the first thing that I don't know. The other thing is, this truck that we just saw, it drives back past this residential area, so pretty much going back towards the more residents 5 minutes later. So I don't know, man. I believe that at that point, in that vehicle, they also have Heather, because how could they kidnap Heather within like 5 minutes without kill her and dispatch her body within 5 minutes, because the next day, Heather's like father actually was, as well as some police officers, located Heather's vehicle, and they didn't see any foul play. Heather's vehicle was messy, but it was always messy. That's what the father said to the police. So I don't know, man, that seems pretty odd. How do you think they managed to kidnap her within like 5 minutes?
Yeah, and without even, I mean, you said kidnap because I think we're both assuming she wasn't killed, but yeah, how do you even force somebody to get into a car and then stay? Like, it's just completely weird. Like,
Yeah,
I can't really think of like the logistics. I mean,
you're right.
would you pull a gun? You know what I mean? Like, what threat would you use?
I think it would be a gun,
Someone
man. Yeah.
And then, would the person even believe you? If it's somebody you've had like some kind of
Right.
physical relationship with, like, would they even, you know what I mean? Like, there's supposedly one of the most common things people say before they get shot is "go ahead, shoot me," because they don't think the person's going to do it, which they tell you don't tell people that, because
Exactly.
they probably will shoot you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that could be the case. So 5 minutes after, the truck is being spotted driving back to the Moore's apartments, and pretty much that's pretty much the last the day before, that was the last time Heather was actually seen alive. So after that, Heather is never, seen again. And I think that's pretty weird, and that's pretty wild. So I guess right now we could jump into the theories to what actually happened to Heather. So I've actually marked down like 4 potential theories. So the first would be that Heather actually ran off to escape a troubled past and boring down and this breakup with Sidney. So I mean, personally, I don't think that that's the case. I mean, we will go through these theories, and the last theory, in my opinion, is the most likely one. Do you think she could have ran off and, like, I don't know, escape the boring town, given the fact that we have all of this cell phone ping information heavily indicating that the Moores were involved, as well as this footage of the car, as well as some later stuff that we might play where, Sidney Moorer gets, like, caught out by the police investigators lying on, like, audio, and we have that audio. So I don't know, man. Do you think Heather ran off? I definitely don't
Nah.
think that. Yeah, that's just like
Nah.
shrug that one off.
Yeah.
Okay, so
No motive, and she doesn't even seem slick enough to pull that off, frankly.
exactly. So now the other thing is Heather's father, Terry Elvis. There's some speculation. I definitely don't want to go into too much details, but there are people that actually side with the Moorers, and they're actually pretty much thinking that Heather Elvis's father, Terry Elvis, had something to do with Heather's disappearance because he had a criminal past. I believe it was had something to do with, like, drugs, probably like small time. And there are speculations, but from what I've gathered, there are absolutely no, like, there's no. I'm not saying there's no credibility to those speculations, but there's literally nothing to go off of. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the fact that Terry Elvis potentially had, like, an improper relationship with Heather. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I feel like she would have told someone at that point. She seems like she had, like, that really loud Twitter personality where I think she would have said something to her friends, to someone, if her father was abusing her. So in my opinion, that's probably not what happened. I'm gonna have to say that's nope.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Like, why wouldn't it seems like something like that would have gotten leaked to one of the friends that she was telling everything else about. I guess the other thing is, it's like, oh, but he happened. This suppose he did it. Oh, he happened to do it the exact same night and time that all this other coincidental, circumstantial stuff
Right,
happened from.
exactly.
Like, wow, what a genius frame up.
Exactly. Okay, man. So Heather was killed and abducted by someone we haven't yet discovered. This is the third theory. So yep. I think this is probably the second most likely theory to what may have happened to Heather, that someone that we don't really know, kidnapped Heather. So I don't know, man. I'm pretty much thinking that it's a possibility, but just because Sidney and Tammy, like, we have things linking them to this case super strongly. I don't think that's the case. But I mean, your thoughts on someone, outside of our field of knowledge doing this?
I think from my mind, like I said, this is all alleged, right? But from my mind, the only way it could have happened that way is if maybe the Moores brought in a third party, for help. But
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, I mean, anyways, yeah, I'll save it for the next theory.
Okay, so the next theory we have Stephen Shiraldi. Shiraldi, man. Like, I'm having a hard time with these. I mean, it's not really an American last name, wouldn't you say? Shiraldi? Man,
Shiraldi, I would say it's like either maybe
Italian.
German Italian or something. Yeah, it's like Italian or like Northern Italian or something.
So Stephen Shiraldi, the dude that went on this date, I mean, it's definitely a crazy coincidence that, as on the same day when Heather finally goes on a date, it's not like she was going on these dates every other day. This was literally the first date after the whole affair with Sidney. So Stephen Shiraldi actually changed his truck's seats shortly after Heather disappeared, and then he also refused to give police his phone for investigations initially, which I think is pretty odd how he was able to refuse that in the first place. I mean, if I was a police officer and I am investigating a case, a missing person case, and the last known contact that spent like a good amount of time with the missing person is now not willing to give up his phone, I'm thinking that's a red flag. But for some reason, the details are not really out in the open. The FBI and the police actually really, really quickly disregard Stephen Shiraldi as a potential suspect. So I think they have a strong case to believe that Stephen had nothing to do with it. I mean, anything on your end regarding Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds to me like they couldn't get a warrant, and if they couldn't get a warrant, they must not have had a compelling reason to get that warrant. You have to go to a judge to get a warrant.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, like you said, the person voluntarily turned over their phone. Yeah, I just, once again, it's like, oh, look at all these other coincidences on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense. I mean, yeah, changing the seats. I mean, okay, there's that, but I guess I'll be kind of curious as we get into this, what other physical evidence there was, for things like, do we have any info about, any changes like that for the Moorers? I can't even say their last name right.
Right. So I mean, that's a good, I guess, link up to the last theory, which is that Sidney and Tammy, either one of them or both at the same time, went there, abducted, and then murdered Heather somewhere, either at their home or somewhere else. So the things that are linking them is that Sidney, my bad with the names here on this case, my bad, Sidney actually told police. First of all, let's play this clip of Sidney. I just have a quick clip where he messes up, so I just want our audience to hear this because I feel like it's gonna help them realize a really important fact, that Sidney was like lying to the police initially. So I'm just gonna play it, and so let's listen in on it real quick.
She said, "Fine, fuck it." She hung up. Mm-hmm. And that's when I turned the volume down, set the phone off, and she called 4 other times.
You just didn't answer.
And I didn't know because I knew it was ringing.
Mm-hmm. Did she say where she was?
Nothing. She just said she wanted to meet.
Mm-hmm. But she didn't say where, like maybe
No.
in North Myrtle Beach or...
No. Which, I mean, that was my initial thought. You want me to drive to North Myrtle Beach at 4 o'clock in the morning? Yeah, that's going to fly over great with my wife right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first conversation you had with her that night?
Yes.
Had you used any other phones that night? Your wife's phone?
No.
Did you make any payphone calls?
Nope. I still have payphones.
There was a phone call made to Heather that night from a payphone at the gas station on 10th Avenue.
Okay.
And we have video from that.
Okay.
Did you try calling her? Just a minute?
No.
A second? You sure?
Maybe.
Okay, how about we start again?
I did. I called her from the
Okay,
payphone.
let's start from the start again. Because
I know.
I don't know you. You don't know me. I
know. In the whole story, everything's legit.
Okay. Let's go back to the part where it stopped being legit and start from the...
Well, no, I did call her on the payphone.
Okay. And what did you say?
I asked her to please leave me alone because she had been leaving notes on her car when I was at work.
When was that last happened?
Like almost the first night we got back. Well, the first night that I worked after we got back from vacation, mm-hmm. I got one on my windshield.
Okay.
You need to call me.
Okay.
And that's it. There was no signature.
And that was like November-ish.
Right, so I'm just gonna step in here. So basically what not Stephen Shiraldi, my bad, I was referring to Sidney Moorer. He essentially said, just to clarify for the audience, because I had to listen throughout the audio for a few times to really understand what was being said. So the police pretty much call, because the police obviously knows about the phone call that essentially Heather made at 2:30 a.m. somewhere around that to Sidney, where they potentially arrange the meeting. I mean, at 3, at almost like 3:15 a.m., where they arranged to meet at Peachtree Landing. The police knows about that call because it was a phone call to phone call that could be traced. So they're asking Sidney whether or not he made any payphone calls prior to this call. And we know he did because we have that security footage camera from like that Walmart that he went to the Walmart at like 1:15 a.m., something like that, and at 1:40 a.m. he is being videotaped by the security cameras making a payphone phone call. So the police officers at that interrogation, they know that he made that payphone call, and they asked him whether or not you made any payphone calls earlier, and he said nope. And he also said something along those lines, do payphones still exist? So, to your point, even in 2013, people were like thinking that was a relic, which, it probably is. Now, the interesting part here is that he says that he made that payphone call to tell Heather to stay away from him because apparently Heather was leaving notes on his windshield at his car, and those notes said, "Call me." First of all, I don't believe that's the case, because wouldn't she just call his phone if he needed to talk? Or wouldn't she like just go and like see her or something like that? I mean, I just don't buy it. I feel like, Sidney is definitely full of BS at this point,
I mean, I will just devil's advocate that I know Tammy was basically controlling his phone or one of his phones.
Exactly, you're correct.
So maybe that's why she couldn't call him on the phone, because Tammy would have intercepted it right away. So maybe,
yeah. But then again, man, I feel like there's some other ways to get in contact rather than leaving, notes on the windshield. I mean, this is 2013. You have Facebook. Couldn't you just leave a message or something like that? Regardless of that, I think it's pretty clear that he was lying on that. So I think there's a whole bunch of evidence pretty much linking them towards the disappearance of Heather Elvis, as well as when they searched their house, they actually found a gun, which I feel like could be used to get Heather into a vehicle, at 4 a.m. If someone's pointing a gun at you and telling you get into this vehicle, you will get into that vehicle. That's what 99% of the people I personally believe will do. Now, the only strange detail left is, why were there no evidence, like why were there no DNA or anything like that, fingerprints left on Heather's vehicle, because there were no signs of struggle, nor there were any DNA recovered. Well, we can't really say that DNA was actually being, recovered, because Heather's father, as well as some other police officers, immediately opened up the vehicle the next day, and they started going through things. So that's it for the DNA, man. They contaminated that vehicle. Heather's car was contaminated. Now, I will play devil's advocate here as well a little bit. I mean, if your daughter doesn't come home, for like one day, and then you find her vehicle 24 hours later, you're probably, I don't know, what would you do? Would you be super cautious, and would be the first thing in your mind would be, let's preserve the DNA evidence? Or would you open the car and look around a little bit? What would you do? I feel like I don't really know what I would do.
Yeah, I would. I'd hate to be in that circumstance, but I would hope that I would be more cautious about that. It's interesting because in this case, you and I were always kind of joking that the cops messed stuff up, but it feels like the cops were relatively on top of things and quick in this case. But then, when you go and you cloud it up. Did they ever want to? So just to clarify, because I want to make sure we don't get sued. The theory we're talking about a theory right now, because obviously this is all still alleged that
I mean,
they
they're
did anything.
sentenced for
Are
these
they
things.
sentenced? I thought they had mistrials. I thought everything was.
Man, the Wikipedia is messed up on this situation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there was some more information, I believe, in 2019, both separately on separate trials.
Okay.
Tammy
Okay.
got slapped 30 years for the kidnapping, but I don't know if they slapped a death thing. You know what I'm saying? Just the kidnapping.
Right.
So she got slapped
Okay.
with 30, and then what happened to Sidney Moorer, he had to serve 10 years. So remember that audio clip that we just listened to? That audio clip pretty much resulted in Sidney getting 10 years because he pretty much lied to the police. And he was also serving those 10 years. Tammy was free at some point, but they quickly turned around and slapped a 30 on Tammy. And then while Sidney was still serving his 10 years, they also slapped another 30 on him for the same pretty much reason. But he has to serve them concurrently, which means that he has to, he will pretty much just get another 30 years. So they're both doing 30, man, at this point. So I know the Wikipedia messed it up on this end.
Yeah, because I think that's the things I was listening to that were still, I guess, behind the events. Okay, so it sounds like the state thinks that they did it. I mean, I guess that was just going through the whole scenario of like how that goes down, and like it doesn't sound like they killed her on the spot, since there wasn't any. It doesn't sound like they found any blood evidence either on the scene, at the landing or in the car. It's so baffling. It's like, because I guess these rural areas, I guess it does make it easier than like some of the other cases we looked at. It's like, how do you make somebody disappear?
I have another theory, and I want you to maybe give your opinion here a little bit. Peachtree Landing is a place where you could hide a body. You know what I'm saying? Is it completely out of the question? They pull up to Heather's car, they show the weapon, they tell Heather, get out the car. Heather gets out the car, they walk her up to like the docks, and they shoot her like in the head or something like that, and she just, I don't know, man, they just assume that she, like, you know what I'm saying, drowns. But then again, there were people, FBI searched the water. So, I mean, I don't even know how well you could search the waters. I mean, remember literally our last case, Alonzo Brooks, where they searched, the area, the creek, but then the family members 1 month later found Alonzo's dead body literally 30 meters away from the party house. So that makes me question, how well can the police actually conduct these searches when it comes to water. So do you think it's completely out of the question that they could have probably killed her on the spot and then, hid her body? There was no DNA found, so I think that's a little bit questionable,
Yeah, I wonder what the flow is in that river that goes into it. I mean, you would think her body would turn up somewhere down there, but yeah, like to your point, the Alonzo Brooks case, I mean, that was just some tiny little creek that was not even 3 feet deep, and somehow this body, doesn't turn up until a month later, all, water logged and everything. I guess the only thing is, if you kill her, I mean, do they strike her so that way it doesn't leave? If you shoot somebody, sometimes a whole bunch of blood comes out. Not always, but often. Yeah, if it's a fatal shot. I guess the other thing is, if you shoot somebody, in theory, though, like, once again, it seems like this is not totally consistent. In theory, they should be able to do like a gun residue test on you, I think even within a couple days. Like, even if you try to wash your hands, it's so strange, you never really think about it, but when you shoot a gun, it actually, there's a whole bunch of like particles that come out of that gun, not just the barrel end of it, but like on you from the chamber. It's just it's so strange. Sometimes crazy. You can see it better. Sometimes if you ever watch like a video of a shooting indoors somewhere where like the camera's like a like has night vision, you can really see like all the like smoke and particles and crap that comes from like a shooting. But yeah, anyway, just that's what I wonder is, did they even get to them in time to do some of these tests? But yeah, I guess it's not totally out of the question. They could have killed her at the scene.
Right. The last thing for me is that, maybe someone in the audience will correct us, because I could really find this information online that pretty much I don't really know if they linked like phone pings of the Moorers to the Peachtree Landing, because if at some point at Peachtree Landing there were Heather's phone and someone from the Moorer's phone at like 3:15 a.m. or whatever, I mean, it's over, you know what I'm saying? The case is closed. So I think the pings were not shown probably on the Moorer side, because it took a while for them to, get those 30-year, you know what I'm saying, in prison sentences. It took a while for that to happen. So I'm thinking that was probably the only missing link. But I guess that footage of that car passing by, I think pretty much indicates that, they probably killed Heather Elvis. I think that's the most credible theory. There were some funny facts during this show, like the fact that apparently Tammy handcuffed Sidney to the bed every night for him to not sneak out. I mean, like, do you think that's some kinky stuff, or do you think this is like a real protection?
I mean, to me, it sounds like an abusive marriage. It makes you wonder if this was why this affair happened in the first place, because, like, that doesn't sound like a healthy marriage. If you're having, I gotta like after you explained that she was bigger than him,
like a lot.
We're like, maybe he's like an abused husband in this thing. I mean, we laugh, but like, it happens a lot more than you think. With domestic abuse, and that's sort of the dirty secret about domestic abuse is it happens to men a lot more than because it's just embarrassing, right? I mean, you and I are even laughing about it a little bit.
A lot more than people think, but not a lot more than to women.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty much women.
Well, right? Yeah. I
mean, yeah. I just wanted to sort that out. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it's worth pointing out. Yeah, clarifying. Most often, women seem to get the worst end of it, especially because of the strength differences. But that doesn't mean that men aren't abused in relationships or marriages. And that's ridiculous. Like, there's a lot of controlling and dysfunctional behavior where
the tattoo
doesn't sound like
the tattoo.
Yeah, the tattoo and like the handcuffing, and then
just to give our audience a little backstory about that too. Tammy made Sidney get a tattoo, like a gang member would get like a tattoo on his stomach, like that, in the shape of like a rainbow. But it usually says like the gang name or something like that, like some gangster stuff. But on Sidney's stomach it just said Tammy. So I thought that was pretty funny that it's just like this gangster looking tattoo, but it said Tammy on it. So so that's also weird how she made him get the tattoo of her name on his pelvis.
Yeah, it's just like the whole thing is kind of sad and sordid. And I mean, from that perspective, once again, just talking about a theory, maybe it's not so unreasonable that someone with this much power in the relationship essentially coerced or masterminded this plan for her husband to lure, this threat to her marriage, and then maybe a pregnant threat to her marriage, out to this remote area, and then, kidnapped and killed her somewhere off site. I guess the only thing it makes, to our point, it feels like she saw some of the red flags herself. She'd made jokes about it. It makes you wonder, like, was it just that the sense of adventure and, a young person who is not too mature yet and is sort of taking risks and getting off on taking risks. Wow. I mean, I guess it's also worth pointing out to anybody that's ever in a similar situation, and I think it's not too unusual, and I think it is worth pointing out because, like, look, like people seem to think they can get away with stuff like this all the time. I'm sure if you could go ask the Moorers now, you know, whatever they did, if they would have done a lot of things differently, I feel like they would have said, yeah, like whatever kind of like the consequences would have been of, let's say Heather was pregnant and had a baby, and now he's got a baby with 2 women, and now something happens to his marriage and all this stuff that's going on. I don't know. It's still better than being in jail. Still better than doing something to someone else like that. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's it's sometimes just like those moments in life where you just got to eat that, like, you know, shit sandwich, I guess. And, but at least that's all it was, right? But now, like, I mean, that's not even counting, like, if you're religious at all, what kind of, like, afterlife consequence will they be suffering if you believe in the afterlife, or like what kind of major crime against humanity and your God have you committed doing this, versus just you did something that was embarrassing and you got to live with those consequences. But now look at you now.
That's a good wrap up, man. I guess since on every episode we sort of give our theories, so I think we are pretty much aligning here that they did kidnapping, killed her. I'm thinking that the only thing here is that, god damn, what was Heather thinking about and like feeling when she was, you see this car? I was waiting for this moment. That's the truck. So she was probably in that truck. We're watching the surveillance footage for everyone.
Well, people along the Gulf Coast have a long...
Yeah, we don't want that. So, so what was Heather feeling in that vehicle? You know what I'm saying? She was being driven to the Moorer's house. The Moorers have 3 kids. Where the hell did they kill her? They probably didn't kill her at their home, you know what I'm saying? They probably just drove her somewhere, shot her, probably in the head or something like that, and then just... dug a grave at the forest for her. And that's pretty much how, everything ended for Heather. So that's definitely super unfortunate. I mean, if I was a juror, I would probably vote against the Moorers, definitely. So our views align here. This was episode number 60, guys. I don't know, man, this episode was maybe a little bit off for us, a little bit. I mean, we did have like a bunch of stuff this week, so either way, for the next week's episode, I think we're gonna be going back to a previously done case, and it's gonna be a good revisitation. I mean, if we agree on doing it. And I guess, guys, for this week's episode, anything you want to say before we sign out, man?
Just thank you so much, everyone, for all the ongoing engagement with the show and all the subscriptions and following us on Twitter. We've been trying to get you as much content as we can. So 2 podcasts a week right now, plus the YouTube episode. And, just keep up the support. We really appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you guys very much. And we will see you on the next week's episode. Stay safe and peace out.